Yeah.
So.
There was a whole thing around the time that they overturned Roe v. Wade that was like, don't track your cycles in your apps because the man will get it and they will, when the handmaids tell the rest of us, they'll know when you have your period.
I think
do what you want with that.
Do what you want with that. I think the man's going to get it anyways. The man usually does. Yeah. So there's that. Anyways.
Was it under his eye?
Under his eye.
Blessed be the fruit.
Blessed be the fruit. Mm-hmm. May the
Lord
show. Open.
Oh,
mm-hmm. So you say blessed be the fruit when you greet the handmaidens, and
fruit.
then the response is may the Lord open.
Open what? Open
your
sesame?
Vagina. Your vagina for the baby. Hi, I'm Kyle, a tired therapist.
And I'm Jackie, also a tired therapist.
And together, we are
Two Tired Therapists.
Welcome to the pod. Welcome to another riveting episode
of
Two Tired Therapists.
Yep, there we go. We can hardly ever say the name of our podcast.
I know, it's fine. Well,
it's fine.
We have the intro.
You can't, I guess if you're going to look for us, you can't have, maybe if you've stumbled upon us, please let us know, I guess.
Yeah, please let us, or
if you've been referred from somebody else.
We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah,
we just have microphones in front of our faces.
Yeah, and we just talk.
And producer Justin yells at us.
People say it's funny. I have a lot of people in my life who want to meet you.
I'm
They're
happy
like, I'd love to meet Kyle.
I'm happy to be their therapist. I can give you some cards. It's fine. It's fine.
They're like, I'd love to meet Kyle. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
maybe.
Get in line, bitch.
If you're lucky, I guess.
If you're lucky or unlucky. Depends on who you ask.
Right, exactly.
Depends on who you ask.
It's fine.
Wow. Very good. Well, Jackie, we hope you had a nice Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Whatever you did. But as the months...
It's over.
It's over. Guess what, bitch? It's over.
It's over, and we are not discussing it.
And we're not discussing it, and we're moving on.
Right.
So, Jackie, what is tired as November comes to a close?
Okay. Well, this is something that's tired always, in my opinion.
Great.
And I don't know if I've said this one already. It's not marked off on my list, so I don't think I have. But when you are watching it, when you're streaming, because nobody watches real TV anymore.
Right.
Canceled.
Right. Canceled.
Commercials or ads being louder, like
yes.
10 decibels louder than what you're watching.
Yes.
Oh my fucking God, a heart attack every
yes.
time. I cannot stand it.
Yes.
I don't know why.
I don't either.
Do you know,
no. Well, it's usually like music, right? Like
it's music
is very loud.
Yeah.
You know, people are talking, they're like, and you're like, okay, turn up the volume. And then some music is like, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What is going on?
I have another one on the same vein, but it's not exactly the same thing. But when shows are really dark and you can't really see, I hate that.
But
I hate that.
You can't turn up the brightness either because then it looks stupid.
No, and Justin and I will pull the shades down, but that doesn't help either.
No.
You cannot see anything anyways.
No.
But when the ads or the commercials are loud, I cannot.
We need some consistency in the sound and the light.
Yes.
So if Hollywood, if you're listening.
Haven't they been on strike? No, they're off the strike now, aren't they?
Who knows
I don't
what's
know.
going on?
It was a whole thing. I don't know.
It's too much.
I know.
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyways, that's what I'm tired of. Kyle, take it away.
Well, it's been some time since I've been canceled, so I think.
Oh, okay.
I think
so we're going back to flags.
So we're not doing flags, not so much, but very similar, but not at all. And I'm probably going to get on a soapbox with this one.
Yes,
and
here we go.
And you might get on it with me. I don't know. We'll find out what's happening.
I'd love to get on a soapbox.
But we have to stop overusing the word neurodivergent.
Oh my God!
Can we?
Let me make room for me on this soapbox.
I actually have one here for you. We have to talk about it.
God.
We have to talk about it. It is a real word. So it is a real word. It is a clinical word.
Sure,
I guess you could say. But
I hate it.
There are only certain and let's just start with this. If you listen to this and you say, "Well, I'm going to still use this word incorrectly," that's fine. Again, it is your God-given manifest destiny, First Amendment right to do that. However, people may have something to say about it, including present company.
Yes.
So you can't say, "Well, I'm depressed, so I'm neurodivergent."
No, honey. No.
There's a very slim category of things that fall under neurodivergent. Things like ADHD.
Yep.
Autism.
Yep.
And maybe some developmental disorders. I don't know. I didn't look up what the
I
actual
think anything
list
that's
is,
neurological.
Yeah,
based,
anything neurological based. So
Depression is not.
Is not.
I would argue a lot of anxiety is not.
No.
Yeah, I just you know what I just saw? I just read something on Instagram, and they were like, if you're neurodivergent, but they were like gearing it towards everyone, and I was like,
right,
not everyone is neurodivergent.
Right. Well,
like I don't know. We talked
be.
about it a couple episodes ago.
Right.
The pop psychology terms we have got to get rid of these.
This is one of them. Well, everyone can't be neurodivergent because being neurodivergent suggests that people are typical.
Yes.
So everyone can't be.
Right.
And everyone's got something.
Well, you've seen these accounts. Oh? They're not real people. I mean, they're not real. Like, no, they're just people who are like, they take, I don't know. This is where.
Well, it's always the dumb. They're like, I shit my pants twice a day, so I'm neurodivergent. Like, no.
Unless like a doctor's told you have a specific neurological
absolutely.
condition, you are. You are not.
If you and I want to see your papers about your ADHD and your autism. Yes. So don't tell me you have autism.
Yes.
And then say, no, I want to see it. You need to have been diagnosed.
What do you think about people who are getting diagnosed as autistic as adults, or diagnosed with autism as adults? I shouldn't say autistic, but
no,
I've seen a lot of people like say that they're getting diagnosed as an adult, and I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know if that's right or wrong. Like,
I think it's fine. I mean, I think autism, it is one of those things that people think they know what it is, and it's not.
Yeah.
I have to have this conversation all the time, is that like people will say, oh, well, I STEM, and I like weird, I like weird things. And I'm like, okay, just because people who maybe have autism do those things,
right,
those are not diagnostic criteria necessarily for like, so I think partly people don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And again, that's fine. If you want to be that, that's totally fine. But just know that people will have something to say about it, because so
I can't.
So having depression, anxiety, because depression, anxiety is something everybody has. Everyone has
at some point in their life.
At some point in their life. Now, even if it develops into like a depressive disorder or an anxiety disorder, that still doesn't make you neurodivergent.
No, it does not.
So we just have to stop, and we have to stop using it as an excuse for.
Yes.
I can't work because I'm neurodivergent. Well, a lot of neurodivergent people work.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'll probably get canceled for saying that, but we just have to.
I can't.
We just have to be careful.
I see it all the time on
because
social media, and I'm like,
I think it takes away from people who, not to say it's real or fake, but from people who are really neurodivergent.
Yeah.
Right? Like people who really maybe like need severe services or.
Yeah, it's like really genuinely affecting their life, instead of just like, I don't like talking to people. I'm like, you're not neurodivergent because you don't like socializing. Like, that's not right. That's a symptom of a neurological disorder, but that's not.
Exactly.
You cannot call yourself neurodivergent because you don't like to talk to people.
No, that just means you don't like to talk to people.
Yeah,
right? Like,
and
I think this is where I feel like a boomer, because then I'm like, not everything has to have a label.
Yeah.
Like, you can just not like, I don't like to talk to people.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. Yeah, you don't. Yeah,
so,
I'm starting to feel that way too. As time goes on,
I know,
it's horrible.
It's horrible. Maybe this is just the circle of life. Like maybe that's just,
I guess,
what happens.
I hate to think that, but sometimes I'm just like, what am I gonna be like in like 20 years?
I know.
And I'm gonna feel like my mom does now.
I'm like, I'm gonna be in a Facebook video like going off on some Gen Zer like about gay people, and I'm gonna get labeled a homophobe and canceled.
Yep, canceled.
So really no different than my life now.
Although you know what I think for the future, this is totally off topic. I think eventually though, social media is going to go away because people are going to be not interested.
It's going to be VR. It's going to be well,
I think people. I think the next generation, like people, like babies and toddlers right now, I think when they're in like their high school, like early 20s, I think they're going to be like, fuck social media.
Do you think they're going to loop back around and it's going to be like Handmaid's Tale? Like it's going to be like the 1920s and we don't have cell phones?
I just don't think that they're going to want to do social media because their parents grew up with it and they're going to be like, ew,
it's not
that's
cool.
Yeah, ew. Like that's how that's
allegedly,
what I think.
Even with Gen Zers, it's already starting to be like not cool.
Yeah.
And they're getting away from
certain
like Facebook, of course, is done. Evidently Snapchat is done now. I learned that the other day.
Done for a long time, I feel like.
Instagram's kind of on the out. But it's so I don't know I don't know what they're doing these days though. How do they?
I don't know either. I don't.
YouTube is on the way out. Someone the other day said YouTube is weird. It's weird if you watch YouTube. So I don't know.
I watch YouTube all the time.
I do too. I mean, well, we're boomers, so what are you gonna do?
Okay, boomer.
Okay, boomer. So
I
don't know.
I think eventually what is this generation? I don't even know. Is it Alpha?
Is it Alpha?
How do you go generation?
I think it is.
By year, I think it's Alpha.
Yeah. Oh God, they're gonna be doing. don't wash your asshole. They're gonna be alphas.
Okay, so we have, oh my God, millennial, 81 to 96. Generation Z or iGen is 97 to 2010. Generation Alpha born after 2010. So yeah. I guess that's Alpha Gen. I really think when they get of age, they're going to be like, social media is lame. My parents loved it. I don't want to be on social media. Bye. And and the whole thing's going to like collapse.
I wonder what they'll do. Be interesting.
I don't know either. The generation after that will be beta. Generation Alpha will be 2010 to 2024. The follows will be beta, 25 to 2039. Gross.
Wow.
Oh my God. I hate that.
Whoa.
Okay, we need to move on because it's going to get too existential up in here.
Well, on that note, let's move into today's topic, which really is not any better than that, because today we're gonna get a little educational. We've had some feedback that we've gotten away from more of the diagnosing and teaching the kids the gospel. That is the DSM. So we're gonna take it back, and I think because it's almost December, people may be a little worried about some seasonal problems. We're gonna talk about depressive disorders today.
Ooh, fun.
So I'm not going to talk about all of them. I just picked out a couple. Let me give you what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk a little bit about disruptive mood dysregulation disorder.
DMDD.
We'll talk about major depressive disorder, of course.
MDD.
We'll talk about persistent depressive disorder, or dysthymia.
Yeah, dysthymia.
And we'll talk a little bit about premenstrual dysphoric disorder.
Ooh.
I think this will be exciting. I think this is something a lot of people don't know of.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say it's newer, but it wasn't the 5 that really put it, because it wasn't before.
I don't think it was.
I
don't think it was really a thing before, or at least it wasn't. This is a diagnosis you can get. Maybe it was like a specifier or something.
Yeah, I think it was a specifier with the 4TR.
Yeah, and then speaking of specifiers, I'm gonna just hit. There's a lot. There's a lot of specifiers.
Yeah, there are.
But I'm just gonna hit on 2 because it's changed over the years, these things, and I think people still use the old terminology and understand it in the old way, and it's not that way. So we're going to talk about peripartum onset, which is better known as postpartum.
Yeah.
And also seasonal pattern, better known as seasonal affectiveness disorder. So postpartum depression, at least in our world, does not exist.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it may exist as a medical diagnosis.
Yeah, I think it does, but not
and I'll tell you why. And then seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Doesn't exist anymore either. So disclaimer, as always, you may not diagnose yourself, your friends, your family, and most importantly, us.
Yes, we don't like that.
We don't like that. Please don't do that.
Don't do the hate mail.
Don't do the hate mail. Don't do the hate mail diagnoses. Just do the hate mail, but please don't diagnose us.
But don't make it personal.
Don't make it personal. That's just not okay. And that's our boundary.
Yeah.
So briefly, let's talk disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, or as we love to put acronyms, the DMDD.
Yeah.
So essentially, I call this depression, but for kids.
Yeah.
Because this is typically diagnosed in people 6 to 18.
Yep.
But the symptoms have to have presented before the age of 10.
Yeah.
Because the DSM likes to make things very complicated.
Yeah.
So what you're looking for with this are temper outbursts, either verbally, behaviorally, that are out of proportion to the situation or the provocation. So, right, like my brother's poking me and then I had a full-on meltdown.
Yes.
Like, that would fall under the category.
Yeah.
The outbursts have to be inconsistent with the developmental level. So a 2-year-old having a meltdown, that doesn't developmentally count. Appropriate. Now, if it's like a 5 or 6, 7, 8-year-old having a full meltdown, that's not really appropriate.
Yeah. And if it's happening a lot too.
Yes, you have to think of frequency as well. So these outbursts have to be happening at least 3 times in a period of a week. Mm-hmm. Between the outbursts, the mood is generally irritable or angry for, this is a very common saying in mood disorders, most of the day, nearly every day.
Yeah.
And must be observable by others.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the favorites of the DSM.
Yes. Most of the day, nearly every day.
Yeah. Nearly every day.
Symptoms have to be present for at least 1 year. And there must be no period lasting 3 consecutive months where there were no symptoms. Ooh. So I think this is where the DSM, we don't like it, because if you have a kid doing this for 6 months, that's problematic.
Yeah.
So to wait, again, if we went, and I think we've talked about this, but if we went by the DSM, by the rules, and you brought your kid in to one of us, which please don't, because neither of us like kids, please don't bring your kid into us. But, and you said, well, it's been happening for 6 months, we'd say, well, they're fine.
Yeah.
We'll see you in 6 months.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucks. The symptoms also have to be observed in at least 2 settings. So work, school, home.
Yes, yeah.
And then nothing else could, no other disorder could better explain these symptoms. And what I didn't know about this when I was looking at my DSM, you cannot be diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder, bipolar disorder, which I would never diagnose a child with bipolar disorder, but they talked about it a lot, and then intermittent explosive disorder. So you can't
diagnose a kid with an intermittent explosive disorder?
I guess.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Maybe it's more if they're like teenagers, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
But so you can't have both. So.
Okay.
So there you go.
Yeah. I'm not a kid person.
We don't work with kids, so,
so
we've never seen
hence
it.
the quiet. I don't know.
But yeah. But generally, this is if kids are depressed, this is what they're going to get.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the big boy. Let's move on to the major depressive disorder.
Sure.
So this is what most people are going to have.
Yes. Yeah.
Coming into therapy. So you have to have 5 of the following symptoms.
Yep.
And at least one of those symptoms must be depressed mood or angry, irritable mood.
Yeah.
Especially in children and men.
Yeah.
And there also has to be a loss of interest or pleasure in one's enjoyable activities, also known as anhedonia.
Yes.
So, and again, we're looking at these symptoms for over a period of 2 weeks, happening most of the day, nearly every day, or more often than not.
Yes.
Those are the fancy words. So there also has to be some type of weight loss or weight gain when not trying to. They say about 5% of your body weight, which is about 2 pounds a week for the average person.
I've never done the math on that, but
for an average, I think I did like a 140 or 160 or something.
Yeah.
It's about 2 pounds, which is the healthy amount. You shouldn't be losing more than 2 pounds a week necessarily. So changes in your sleep pattern. So this could be that you begin sleeping too much, also known as hypersomnia, or not sleeping enough, also known as insomnia.
Yeah.
You have to have psychomotor agitation, or, for a lack of better term, retardation every day.
Yes.
It's in the DSM. They've not changed it yet.
Yeah.
It just means that you're moving quicker, maybe you're restless or agitated, or you're moving slow and you don't move a lot.
Yeah.
So
I used to tell people, like, if I usually say, for the slower one, I would say I usually would ask, has anybody told you seem like you're like walking through water or like moving slow? And they're
lethargic.
Like, oh yeah.
They really need to change that. I'm not sure. How did we in the DSM-5 let that happen?
I don't know. Because I think it's a scientific medical term.
It is.
And that's why I don't know. I mean,
it's also a music term too.
Yeah.
So it means slow. Yeah. Anyways, fatigue or low energy, naturally. A feeling of worthlessness or excessive or inappropriate guilt.
Yeah.
Diminished ability to concentrate, indecisiveness, other cognitive symptoms, memory, attention.
Yep.
And then thoughts of death could be suicidal ideation with or without a plan or an attempt.
Yeah.
So you have to have at least 5 of those, as well as the mood and the anhedonia.
Yeah, the anhedonia.
Over 2 weeks, more often than not. So technically, again, and we talked about this in the last episode a little bit, where like everyone gets depressed.
Yeah.
Right? Like depression is a normal human experience.
Yeah.
And normally it's, okay, I lost my job, so now I'm depressed,
right,
for 5 days.
Yeah.
And then afterwards I'm like, okay, I can do this. That would not fall into the category of major depression.
No, and you kind of have to, we've never talked about them, but like you have to kind of think about adjustment disorders too. Like if there's a life thing going on, like I wouldn't put, bereavement's a tricky one this. Yeah,
we'll
it's okay, then I'll save it. But but like it's a tricky one to diagnose somebody, because you don't always.
Yeah.
You can't always diagnose somebody with depression if it's bereavement. Yeah. It just really depends on what's going on.
And you have to look at their history too. And I'll talk about, that's part of the coding, if anyone cares about what you do. But you have to code, is this a single episode?
Right.
Meaning this is the first 2-week period they've experienced these symptoms or have for that period of time. Or is it recurrent, meaning they didn't happen for, I think it's 2 months, I think at least 2 months, and then they happened again. That would be a recurrent episode. But you were right, and that grief does not fall under this category because grief is a normal human thing. Yeah. Now, there is a separate diagnosis now, and I haven't looked up the criteria because it's in the new,
is it in the TR?
Yeah, it's like the only thing they changed. That's called prolonged grief disorder. Oh. So I'm not exactly sure what the criteria is for that, but I'm sure it's different from this. Now, you could be diagnosed with that prolonged grief disorder and depression. Grief, of course, can become depression. Yeah. But you have to tease out, or rather, your therapist has to tease out did you find?
It just
Did you find
says
anything?
prolonged grief disorder is characterized by this intense and persistent grief that causes problems and interferes with daily life. Grief is a natural response to the loss of a loved one. For most people, the symptoms of grief begin to decrease over time. I think this is just saying like it doesn't decrease. I can't find any like
there's no like normal.
It was added
grieving.
to the must be present usually at least daily for 6 to 12 months. So it says elevated rates of suicidal ideation and attempts, functional impairment, high treatment seeking behaviors, adverse health behaviors.
Interesting.
And it also gives you a risk of somatic symptoms. So I won't read this
Really?
because there's a lot. Yeah, it's interesting.
We'll have to.
Up a TR.
Yeah. You also must specify, is it mild, moderate, or severe?
Yeah.
And you also specify if there is a presence of psychotic features.
Yes.
Specifically in depression, you're looking for delusions or hallucinations. Yeah. Typically, that's what you see.
Yeah.
You also specify, this is one that there's a billion things you have to specify. If the symptoms are in partial remission, which means that symptoms may be present, but you don't meet full criteria.
Yep.
Full remission, meaning no significant symptoms for 2 months.
Yes.
So I would say most people that I see, if they meet this, definitely depressed mood. And the mood doesn't have to be like sad. I think a lot of people think like, oh, I have to be like crying. No, it can be like depressed, like empty or angry or irritable. Definitely see the anhedonia part.
Yeah.
Definitely see like low appetite.
Yeah. The weight gain is for a lot of people or weight loss or gain is usually another one too.
Yeah. Well, it kind of just depends on the person.
Yeah.
And that's why it's either like you could eat more, you could eat less, you could sleep more, sleep less. I mean, there are some people who are very depressed who don't sleep at all, which I don't think is what you stereotypically think about. So definitely those, definitely people sleeping too much usually, feeling no energy, just worthless, can't concentrate.
Yeah.
All those. Suicidal ideation depends.
Yeah,
it depends. I think
I have people who felt like they wanted to go to sleep and not wake up, and they weren't gonna like try to kill themselves necessarily.
Yeah, more that which we would classify as passive, where it's like maybe you want to die, but you're not like, okay, next Tuesday I'm gonna like
you're not like actively trying to kill yourself. You're just like, if I went to sleep and didn't wake up, oh well.
Right. Like, it's relief. I want the relief. So then let's talk about then the persistent depressive disorder or dysthymia.
Yes.
It's really the same thing. It's just that the consistency of the symptoms has been for at least 2 years.
Yeah.
Only 1 year in kids.
I've never seen this diagnosed.
I haven't either. Oh, in a kid? Definitely not in a kid. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
What was interesting though, and I didn't know this about it, is that the suicidal ideation criteria and anhedonia is not under this. Those are not considered. And you've had to have no manic episodes, so you can't have like bipolar disorder with this as well. And then again, there's 1,000 specifiers. And then as far as having the symptoms consistently, it means you can't have gone more than 2 months without symptoms. So I think this is I mean, it's out there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But this does tend to be the most resistive to treatment.
Yeah.
So
there's people who won't like get out of bed for anything.
Yeah. So let's do the last one, and then we'll take a little break. Okay. So the next one is the premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Yeah. PMDD. So
my God.
This, I'm definitely noticing this is being talked about more. I have a lot of clients who are looking into this more. I think it's probably experienced a lot more than people think. And people just aren't talking about it.
I'm trying to think I think a couple of times I've seen it diagnosed.
Yeah.
A few, but it's not like it's not every person.
And it's
very specific. It's very, very specific.
And it's very hard to diagnose again because of the whole duration thing. So here's I wrote my uneducated theory, but I really think it's my educated theory in that I think this develops honestly because of birth control. I think women, we'll just say, or young women who have periods are put on birth control to try and manage that. And doctors, please write in and tell us we're wrong, but I don't think I am.
We want to have doctor hate come our way.
And I think that fucks up people's hormones.
It does. Oh yeah.
And hormones are a part of managing our mood.
Yes.
So I think then what happens in these in
oh my God,
women's cycles and in their periods, I guess I should say people, I guess other people other than women, but whatever. There becomes this this buildup where your hormones are not able to do what they need to do, because what happens in PMDD is that these symptoms are present in the week before your cycle. They use the word MENSES in the DSM, which I think is so...
I hate it. I hate that word.
It's so gross. But before your cycle or your period.
Yeah.
So you have to have at least one of the following. So mood lability. So you go from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
Irritability and anger with interpersonal conflicts. Depressed mood, feelings of hopelessness, self-deprecating thoughts, or anxiety, tension, or feeling on edge. So you have to have one of those a week before your period. And then at least one of the following, but with a total of 5. It's so weird. It's like a freaking matrix of trying to figure this out. But it's decreased interest in usual activities, concentration difficulty, lethargy, fatigue, change in appetite, sleep, feeling overwhelmed, out of control, and then the physical symptoms such as breast tenderness, joint muscle pain, bloating, weight gain. So about a week before your period, those are really bad. About a couple days into your period, they significantly reduce, and then towards the end of your period, they're gone.
Yeah. I read a very interesting story on Reddit. Queen of Reddit right here.
If anyone didn't know.
And it was really interesting, and I'm pretty sure it was a man writing in, but it was the partner of a woman who had this. I mean, but it was like, she would like break shit. She would like, and she like, not that she didn't have a memory of doing it necessarily, but her mood was just so bad during like the week leading up to her period, and like right at the beginning of her period, like she kind of didn't remember. I mean, like this guy wrote it and he was like, I don't know what to do, and everybody in the comments thankfully was like, she needs to go to like a doctor and like actually like maybe get her hormones checked, and like she'd been on birth control forever, and so and that shit really fucks with your system.
It really does. It really does.
Like they're starting to realize now how much it's really fucked.
Yeah. Oh, I can't
with everything.
I can't tell you. I mean, I can think of at least 4 clients off the top of my head who had these issues. And you're right. And it's just where, like, for a lack of a better term, they go crazy
they go
before their period.
Yeah.
And then they have it and they look back, they're like, I don't know who that girl was. Like, I don't know her.
Yeah. I read another one a couple of days ago, and the guy was like, I really want to break up with her because he's like, I really cannot do this every single month. And he's like, I love her outside of this, but like, this is insane. Like, I mean, she literally is a totally different person.
Right.
I was like, that really sucks. But I get it. Like, I mean, and there's not, I mean, I don't want to say there's not a lot of treatment for it, but I mean, it's pretty.
Usually it's go off birth control.
Yeah, it's usually go off your birth control.
And go on an SSRI. Yeah. And we'll talk about that a little later. But and I've seen that. I've seen where I've had patients who they go off their birth control and they're like, don't want to, and they're like, I feel a billion times better.
Yeah.
Now there are alternatives because a lot of birth controls are like, what's the word? Not like estrogen, but like what is that called?
Isn't it
like
progesterone or whatever?
Something like that, maybe.
I think.
But like there are some that are not based in that and are a little better, but who knows? So this is why it's hard to diagnose this, is that
it's
the symptoms have to be present for a year, and you basically have to track these symptoms every single day and be able to prove that every month without, I think it was like a 2-month, like if you skip 2 months, then you have to start over.
Restart,
but I am finding that a lot of primary care doctors are becoming more aware of this. And so typically if you can prove it over a period of like a couple months, they're willing to help out. So if this is something you experience, start tracking your symptoms. I think I will say most people who have periods do track them in my experience.
There's so many apps and stuff now.
Yeah,
it's very easy to do it, and a lot of them have like you can add symptoms to it, and it's not that I mean, we can maybe list the symptoms to help you for anybody, because this is something that I think people then they just get like gaslit basically, because they're like, oh, you're just on your period, and it's like that might be true, but in reality, you should not be this way on your period. No, you shouldn't. I mean, it's not fun, but I mean, it's not. You shouldn't be smashing shit and hulking out on your period.
No.
Like it doesn't work that way.
That's not how God intended.
No.
May she rest in peace.
Right. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure if this is anyone that wants to track these, we'll stick those symptoms if someone will remind me to
do that.
So PMDD. it's a real thing.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. So let's take a little break. We'll deal with then those specifiers.
Yes.
We'll talk about those two specific ones, and then we're going to talk about treatments, and then we have a fun little new outro that I've kind of stole but kind of made up.
Love it.
And we'll send you on your way.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Welcome back.
We're back.
Jackie made a good point in our break that anyone who's maybe leery about tracking their MENSES because one day it will be Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, it will be.
It's unavoidable. So you might as well get some enjoyment out of your life now before you become a handmaid.
Yeah.
So.
There was a whole thing around the time that they overturned Roe v. Wade that was like, don't track your cycles in your apps because the man will get it and they will, when the handmaids tell the rest of us, they'll know when you have your period. I think do what you want with that.
Do what you want with that. I think the man's going to get it anyways. The man usually does. Yeah. So there's that. Anyways.
Was it under his eye?
Under his eye.
Blessed be the fruit.
Blessed be the fruit. Mm-hmm.
May
the Lord open.
Oh,
mm-hmm. So you say blessed be the fruit when you greet the handmaidens, and
fruit.
then the response is may the Lord open.
Open what? Open
your
sesame?
Vagina. Your vagina for the baby.
Like,
may the Lord open your womb. It's
hate
disgusting.
Yeah,
highly.
I can never watch that show. I feel so bad.
No,
people tell me that they like.
It's
I
so
almost want to read
good.
the books. I feel like the books would be.
The book is fine. The book is fine. There's two books. They're both fine. But like the show is like,
I can't.
Trauma.
Yeah, I can't. I cannot watch trauma. There was another show somebody was telling me to watch, and they're like, it's pure PTSD, and I'm like, I don't want to have PTSD.
You can, like, if you like, for anyone like who has any sort of like feelings about trigger warnings, like rape, any of that, like, do not watch Handmaid's Tale.
I can't.
You can't binge watch it because you will be ready to go inpatient because you are suicidal. I did. I watched.
Our dear friend Claire was like, "You'd love this," and I'm like, "I can't."
I watched like 4 episodes one day, and I was like, "I have to stop. I have to stop." And like, I'm a rotten person, so it takes a lot. It takes a lot for me to like.
But you'd like stare at a wall for 4 hours.
But I'm like,
just to be like, erase that.
I have to go. I have to go.
Oh God.
So let's talk about 2 more things. So I mentioned these specifiers about what people know as postpartum depression and then seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. So these are actually specifiers that get tacked on to one of these other diagnoses that I discussed. So we actually call it peripartum onset. Yeah. So this can be applied with or without meeting criteria for depressive disorder. Yeah. So you could, in our world, we can say like not like, what is it, unspecified depression. Yeah. Peripartum onset. So the reason they call it peripartum is because even though symptoms may not be noticed until postpartum after delivery, typically the symptoms more often than not actually happen before. So peripartum comes from, I think it's Latin, peri meaning surrounding or near, and partum meaning birth. So the onset of these symptoms is typically about 4 weeks or 1 month before delivery. Yeah, I was going to say it's pretty... Yes. So the risk is greater around this time, so 1 month before, and then 1 to 2 months after the delivery. The DSM says that 50% of people diagnosed with postpartum have actually developed symptoms peripartum. Yes. So that's why they did that. The other thing that's different is that it's often classified with extreme anxiety and panic attacks, which is not always the case with major depression. Right. That can be a specifier, but with peripartum, it's almost always there. Yeah. Studies suggest developing symptoms during pregnancy places people at higher risk of postpartum or peripartum depression. So if you have it much earlier in your pregnancy. Yeah. You can also develop psychotic features. Yes, you can. You can. Yeah. Infanticide being the most common. Yes. So having thoughts of wanting to kill your baby. Yeah. Though, if I did my math correctly, the prevalence is 0.1 to 0.2%. I don't think that's
pretty low.
Is it pretty low?
It's pretty low.
It's more common in, again, the DSM loves its stupid words, primiparous women. if I'm saying, or
does that mean?
primiparous. It means you already had a child. You were pregnant and had a child. So
okay.
Having one episode of a psychotic feature greatly increases the recurrence of this happening in a subsequent pregnancy, around 30 to 50%.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That, for lack of a better term, was crazy.
I just wrote down an episode idea that I would love to do.
Please.
And it would be like, it's part postpartum depression or psychosis. It's do you remember Andrea Yates in Not Guilty by Reason of Insanity? She was a mother back in the early 2000s who killed all 5 of her kids.
No.
Because she was actively psychotic. Yeah. She had just had her 5th baby.
Yeah.
And the family knew, well, from what I've read, I would have to put a lot of research into this because it was a very highly publicized case at the time, but husband knew she was psychotic, and they I don't want to say they didn't do anything. I don't think they were doing enough at the time.
Yeah.
And he left for work or he left to go somewhere, and she killed all of their kids in the bathtub. It was really sad.
This sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, it's probably another famous NGRI case. Not guilty by reason of insanity. She's still in the mental hospital today, by the way. And
that's, absolutely. If you've already had one psychotic episode, period, that puts you at a great increased risk.
They were very religious, so God provides, and God's the birth control.
Well, God takes with both hands, or gives with both hands.
I did, by the way, watch the Duggar documentary, so we will have to. I'll write this down right now
because we have things to discuss.
Oh my God! Anyways.
But yeah, so
how Michelle Duggar
she's not had a psychotic episode after 47, because unfortunately,
it's
like the more pregnancies you have puts you at a higher risk for lots of things, which
yes it does. Well, and do you know about the most recent case of this, right, that just happened in Massachusetts earlier this year?
Unless it's been on Instagram. No, I don't.
Oh, well, it's really sad. She was a labor and delivery nurse. She just had her 3rd child. She had postpartum psychosis. They were, she was getting treatment. She'd been hospitalized. The cocktail of medications this woman on is insane.
I'm sure.
She killed all 3 of her kids, then jumped out her window.
Oopsies.
She did not die. She paralyzed herself, I think, from the neck down.
That's even worse.
And of course, they're prosecuting her for murder.
Well, sure.
Because, I'm not saying she shouldn't be, but it's pretty sad. It's another case where there's a lot of cases, and they get highly publicized because it is such I would say that it tugs at the heartstrings of a lot of people, but it doesn't necessarily always mean well, I'll say in our field, when we had postpartum people come through, we took anything that they said pretty seriously. I remember in our early days, we had one come through. She just had a baby, and she was like, I'm not going to do anything. She's like, but sometimes I just want to throw the baby down the stairs. And I was yeah. I was like, and she was like, I won't do anything. She's like, someone's always home with me. And she's like, but and I'm like, nope, I appreciate you telling me, but guess what? We have to report that. So,
guess what, bitch?
Because it's an
impulsive thing.
And people, I was going to say doctors and treatment providers are very responsive about this thing.
And that brings up another point, and why this is so difficult is because a lot of medications that people take for mental health cannot be taken in pregnancy. You're pregnant, especially psychotic medications.
Those
are usually, I think there are some that are better these days.
There's a couple that you can take, but even anxiety and depression meds, there's only a few that you can take.
And they're really not the greatest necessarily as far as first line treatments for we digress. So let's move on. So now let's talk about the seasonal pattern as it's known,
the SAD,
formerly known as SAD. So,
oh my God, this is another, just to go off your neurodivergent, this is another highly, everybody's like, I have seasonal affective disorder, and I'm like,
and we'll talk about this a little bit, if you live in the Midwest or the East Coast where winter is coming,
probably tomorrow,
you do develop it for natural biological, physiological reasons,
right?
Right. So with this, you have to prove that there is a temporal relationship between the onset of your symptoms and a particular time of year that does not represent a specific stressor. So being unemployed during the winter because you are a construction worker does not count.
Yeah.
So you have to have, typically it's winter or fall. So symptoms then have to disappear, or, I found this interesting, change to mania during the other times of the year, though more than likely just spring, summer.
Interesting.
I know. So you can have this even with bipolar disorder. I know. I was like, what?
What?
Shows how much I know.
Never. Okay. Well,
I know.
We look dumb right now.
Well, there you go.
What's new?
2 major episodes have to have occurred in the past 2 years, which demonstrate that temporal relationship.
Yeah.
Your seasonal episodes have to outnumber your non-seasonal episodes. So if you have depression through the year and it's just worse in the winter, that does not count.
Yeah.
So again, typically we see the fall, winter.
Yeah.
But there is some research, it's very rare, but that there's also a summer period. Some people can have like seasonal through the summer.
Really?
Not really sure why. I didn't look that up, but
interesting. Okay.
Maybe because it's in some places it gets fucking hot, so you don't go outside either. I don't know. It is best characterized by this. It said prominent energy. I don't know what that means. Having more energy? I don't think that's right. Maybe I wrote it down wrong. Hypersomnia, so sleeping a lot.
Yeah.
Overeating, weight gain, and craving carbs. So think like hibernation.
Sure.
Which I think, this is my uneducated opinion for sure. I think humans missed the mark on hibernation. I think we are supposed to hibernate. I do.
Yeah, I do think so.
I think we are supposed to hibernate like anything else.
Yeah.
And civilized society fucked that up.
Yeah,
so I would like
did.
that to be known. So as I said, it can happen in bipolar disorders. You can have that. However, it is more likely with bipolar 2.
Yes. Can I just say something? This is just a
Please.
disclaimer. Just for all those people out here who are listening, carbs are your friend.
Carbs are your friend.
Don't completely cut out carbs.
No,
That's
you can't
a
do
bad
that.
idea.
You can't do that. That's what your body uses for energy.
Yeah, you really actually need carbs,
Right.
like a lot of carbs.
Should you eat 50 Twinkies for your carbs?
No. But I mean.
But can you have a baked potato?
Yes, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
A handful of chips. Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be okay.
It's okay. Anyways.
18 bags of chips?
No.
No. Don't do that.
Carbs are okay.
Yeah. So, of course, things like where you live, your age, your sex, those can affect that. Of course, people in California don't necessarily get this.
No, because they're in the sunlight all the time.
Because they've. Yeah.
Are you going to talk about the light therapy?
I will talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that in treatment.
I won't.
The higher latitudes also gives you a higher prevalence. So the further you go north or south from the equator.
Oh.
Because less sunlight.
Okay.
And then our youths and our teens are at the highest risk. Yeah, I don't know.
Why?
I'm just reading from the DSM. I don't know.
That's interesting to me. But I don't
think
know why.
It has to do with your circadian rhythm. I mean, their rhythm is probably a lot more sensitive because they're little babies.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So no more seasonal affective. You just have a seasonal pattern, but it's probably not what you think. So quit saying you have it. Just because you're a little more depressed in the winter. Everyone is depressed in the winter,
that's like,
especially around here.
Seasonal affective disorder. Here's my light therapy. I'm like,
okay. Well, speaking of, let's talk about some treatments. So here's some treatments for kind of overall depression. I threw in a couple for some of the other ones we talked about. So, of course, therapy, naturally. I threw in CBT because it is the one that is most research, cognitive behavioral therapy, or even just behavior-based therapies to help you with keeping a routine, stuff like that.
Yes.
Mood trackers. So we talked about apps to track your MENSES.
Yeah.
Well, you can also track your mood through apps.
Yes.
Solution-focused therapies or brief therapies can be helpful. You know, if you're like, oh, I'm not exercising, well, let's figure out how to get you exercising or stuff like that. Stress reduction, of course, and mindfulness. So working on those things in therapy can be very beneficial.
Yep.
Medications, of course.
Yes.
So we have our SSRIs.
Yes.
Like Prozac and Zoloft.
Yep.
Those are going to be your first line. That's what most doctors, prescribers are going to provide you. Then, if that doesn't work, they're going to go to the SNRI, like a Cymbalta or an Effexor. And then they're going to go for what are called atypical antidepressants like Wellbutrin or Trintellix.
Yeah.
And I think, this is my half-educated opinion, that I believe they use these to augment either an SSRI or an SNRI.
Sure.
So if any providers are listening and confirm.
Yeah.
So they'll prescribe these if you're using, let's say, Prozac, you get to the highest dose, it's not working, then they'll give you something like Wellbutrin to give it a little boost. Now, there are some, I'm very excited to hear your opinion on some of these.
Oh, good.
So there's also tricyclics. which are not very common anymore because
say,
they do have very severe side effects. They usually only try these if you have not gotten any benefit from the ones that I mentioned. MAOIs, or monoamine oxidase inhibitors, also lots of side effects with those.
I feel like you hear these in the commercials that are like, were you ever prescribed an MAOI?
Yes, these, they don't really do this anymore, but I suppose they're still out there,
right?
Because these do require a very strict diet. There are certain things that you cannot eat, not just like be careful, like you will be very, very, I think even can kill you if you do it. Again, not common unless nothing else has worked, and you cannot use these with an SSRI. They are very dangerous interactions. Other medications such as stimulants can sometimes be used to help people with their energy levels if the energy is not working. Sleep medications may also be used to regulate their sleep, as sleep is tied very closely with mood disorders. And then mood stabilizers if you have a little bipolar, which we discussed in a previous episode.
Yes.
So now you mentioned light therapy. So using what's I call them sun lamps, but they're, I think, more commonly known as light boxes.
Yeah.
To help better regulate your body. So this is I'm going to absolve us of any responsibility, and this is what the Mayo Clinic says to do. Okay.
We trust them.
So Mayo Clinic says if you need to find one that's 10,000 lux light. So that's a unit or a measurement of light, I guess. It has to have as little UV light as possible. We don't want to be blasting your skin with UV light.
Yeah, that's bad for you.
You want to use it within the first hour of waking up for about 20 to 30 minutes, having it 16 to 24 inches from your face with your eyes open but not staring into the light.
So you just like above the light? What?
So you basically are like a lizard, I guess, on a rock, and you
that,
let
or
it
unless you like can put it above you, so you could like look straight.
Well, I think it's just they say like it needs to be like close to you, like you don't want it like
you don't
4 feet across the room.
If you
like
if you had something that was like elevated,
but you're not gonna like stick it in your eyeball.
Oh my god, that's funny. I'm trying to find like one on like Amazon or something, but
I mean they look all kind of different. Like I have one that just kind of is like long and skinny.
Yeah, well, this one looks like a regular lamp.
Yeah, some of them just look like regular. Okay. They're just super bright. So while this is typically suggested to treat seasonal depression, research actually shows that it also can treat major depression and perinatal depression.
Oh, interesting.
And it's believed because this regulates your circadian clock, your circadian rhythm, which we talked about in our sleep episode.
Yeah.
Because that is controlled by our receptors in our eyes. And in the winter, not as much sunlight out there. So that means your clock gets out of whack.
Yes.
And we can post the article too. I have that's somewhere. So it can help. It can help if you have the right. It can't just be like a bright light bulb. Like it does have to be a very specific type.
Also, don't just go outside and stare at the sun. That's a bad choice.
Don't do that. But I will say my next point is to say, or actually I think I was saying it later, going outside even in the winter when you can, like on a sunny day, like bundle the fuck up and go outside.
Yeah, and just
like,
stand outside for 10 minutes.
Stand outside for, I think they say 20 to 30, but anything's better than nothing, right? Like similar to the idea of the light box, like going outside and not even just with seasonal, like in the summer, like go outside. In the spring, go outside because this does help with depression. Even on cloudy days, they say still try to do it. Yeah. Because sunlight does come through the clouds.
It does, absolutely. That's why I have to wear sunscreen on cloudy days.
Yep. So just bundle your little self up.
Yes.
So this is more, we're going to get into some hokey. So vitamin D.
Sure.
This is an essential vitamin we get from the sun. Vitamin D deficiencies are linked to depressive like symptoms, though whether they cause depression is not clear. So vitamin B12 is another vitamin that people will talk about. You can get supplements and injections. These do not necessarily treat depression.
No.
Let me just reiterate. But can be helpful. So please talk to your doctor about that. Creating a routine is very good for depression. So just a daily routine, but also a sleep routine, because sleep, again, is very closely tied to mood disorder. So anytime someone comes into my office and says, oh, I'm feeling more depressed, my first question is, how's your sleep? Yeah. Because if they are more than likely sleeping too much or too little.
That, and it's just also like a good way to, I guess, housekeep your own life is to like have your sleep hygiene looked into and like do your own routine. Like that's the first thing any doctor is going to talk to you about.
And for this, like, especially with depression, like that can be really hard to have a routine because you're depressed. So I usually say, like, let's start with the basics. Like have a little list of like, Okay, did I eat something today? Like, even if it was like Burger King. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Like, did you do something fun today?
Yeah.
Did you drink some water? Like, let's start there.
Yes.
And with that, engage in an enjoyable activity even when you don't want to.
Yep.
So even if you're like, that sounds dumb, do it anyways.
Yep.
Exercise, eat healthy. Yeah. We all know about that.
Yeah.
So we can move on. Journaling can be very good.
Yeah.
Writing out what you're depressed about, getting it out, expressing it. And then the last one, don't do drugs. Drugs don't help. Drinking, smoking weed, whether you believe weed is good or not, don't care. Whether you believe alcohol is good or not.
It's not helping.
Meth, cocaine, none of it's going to help you long term.
Not helping.
So please don't do that. Don't do drugs.
No, it doesn't help.
Drugs are bad, okay?
I see a lot of people who are like, oh but like weed really, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's really not helping you. I mean, you think it's helping you, but it's not helping you. It's working against you.
Right.
Especially if you're on medication, it's very much working against you.
Right. So
yes. We do not condone drinking, smoking, drugs while you're on any kind of medication.
Recreationally. Sure. Marijuana, sure. But if you're saying, oh, well, I'm depressed, so I'm smoking weed, that's not recreationally.
Right. Or if you're
coping.
On Zoloft and you're smoking a lot of weed, I'm like, that's probably not the best choice.
Well, and then you say my Zoloft isn't working. Correct. Because those two things interact. As we know, as we study this more, we know, And
doctors aren't going to take you off of it and put you on something else. They're going to tell you stop smoking the weed.
And I can attest to that our providers in our office will certainly not take your word for it. If you are drinking or smoking weed, they will not take how you're gauging the effectiveness of your medication.
Yes.
So
most
that's just the tea.
Not.
It's just the tea. It's nothing against you. It's not that we don't like that you smoke pot it's just that's how the world works.
Well, and that's how the world's going.
That's how the world's going.
Yes.
So it's just how it is. Yeah. So there you go. Anything you'd like to add, Jackie, on depression, on MENSES, on anything?
I'll just say depression is a lot more common than people think it is.
Absolutely.
And I've met a lot of people who said I'm not depressed, and then I asked them a bunch of questions, and they definitely had depression, and it was like, I guess I'm the one to deliver this news to you today. Right. Hello, it is me, the news bearer.
Right. and it's not good news.
Right.
It's not good news.
No, it's a lot more common. I would say probably the most common symptoms are the loss of losing pleasure in the things that you once liked.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I mean, it's a lot more common than people think.
Right.
You can have depression and you don't need medication necessarily. I mean, it's like people think, I don't know. There's some weird stigma with depression, I think, still. It's getting better as time goes on.
It is.
But it's not like anxiety. I don't feel like people there's a stigma with anxiety, but with depression, there's this weird stigma with it still.
I think it's probably suicide. I think is probably, that would be my guess.
And honestly, a lot of people who I saw that had depression, that wasn't even the symptom that they had. It wasn't.
I think a lot of people who die by suicide actually have other, typically it's bipolar, or it's other, it's usually not depression. I mean, some of it is for sure, don't get me wrong, but I would, maybe I'm wrong, but I would be curious to see if that's I think it is stressful because with the medications, some of those the SSRIs, the SNRIs, they do take a while. They do take 4 to 6 weeks. Especially for women. I don't know why women just don't get the great, they get the short stick of everything.
Yes, we do.
If you are heavier, if you are obese, these medications aren't they don't work as quickly either. So there are a lot of barriers, I think. But medication doesn't have to be it. So
no, you don't have to have medication. I mean,
no.
I'm not saying if your doctor offers it to you, consider it. Do what your doctor says, but you don't always have to go on medication for depression.
No.
And please stop saying that you have seasonal affective disorder.
Please stop saying that.
I hate it.
Yeah. You truly probably don't.
Yeah. And on PMDD. RIP to all the people out there who have it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the club. It does suck, but once you find a provider who will listen to you, because unfortunately, again, women and people who have periods are often not taken seriously by the medical community.
Yes, we won't list all the people who don't get taken seriously.
Right. But there are providers out there that will listen to you.
Yes,
and they will help you.
Yes.
Believe it or not.
Yes.
And if you're in the area we live in, I'm happy to give you some names.
Yes.
So just contact me.
Yes. Anyways. Yeah, and there's probably resources. I know of Reddit forums where people will post the doctors that they go to that are helpful and not rude or shamey. So I mean, you just got to Google's and you'll probably
And I will say some of them are men. There are lots of male docs. So this isn't for once in our life male bashing. There
not
are
today,
some,
Satan.
not today, Satan.
Yeah, there's actually, I will say it's, those lists are good. It's 50-50 male and female doctors. So, I mean, just do your research.
Do your research.
Yeah.
Always do
ask
your research.
Ask around, ask friends. Friends might know. Anyways.
Yeah, ask your local therapists.
Yeah.
Let them know.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, let's wrap it up. I know you're excited. I know everyone's excited for this new outro. I was telling Jackie, I kind of stole it.
Plagiarized.
I know that this is it's in another podcast. It's not one that I've listened to. Oh. Someone just told me about it. But as I was creating,
do you know the name of the? Should we shout them out? No,
I have no idea. I'm so sorry. So if anyone does know, we'll be happy to give them credit. But I was actually creating something else, and as I was making this list, and I remember what the old thing was. I think I was like, is it in or is it out? Like, is this thing in or out?
In or out?
I started this somehow came to my mind. So instead of that, it's gonna be, is it gay or is it straight? So
yes, here we go.
So and it's gonna be something. Some of them are be clear, but some of them are very random. So these are very random things, and we have to decide if it's gay or it's straight.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready?
If you say not washing your butthole, it's totally
no.
straight.
I don't have that one, but that's definitely straight. So the first one, Ozempic.
Ooh, I'm gonna say straight.
It's
on
straight.
This one.
It's absolutely straight. It's absolutely straight. Gay people don't do that.
Yeah.
The Barbie movie.
Gay.
Absolutely gay.
Fine.
Yeah. Having a side hustle.
Straight.
It's
straight.
We're doing so well. I was surprised. I didn't know where we would go with this.
Oh God.
Okay, this is great. Crocs.
Straight.
I don't know. I'm on the fence. I don't know. Because now you can be jeweled. It's bi. Because now you can like do all these things with them. Like you can put little
do you own Crocs?
On. No,
I own Crocs sandals, and they are so fucking comfortable. They don't look like Crocs; they look like sandals, but they're very comfortable.
No, I only owned one pair of Crocs in college because you had to share a shower, and I was not about to put my bare feet where a bunch of dirty men put their. Oh, I guess we are bashing men again. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're back.
We're back.
Well, we're back. So I think I would go straight.
I think it's straight. I think they're straight. I see more straight people wearing Crocs.
Agreed.
To be honest.
Agreed. Rihanna.
Gay.
Yeah, gay. Mm-hmm. Dank memes.
Straight.
Yeah.
Straight.
No
one says the word dank anymore.
Yeah, like, no one said. Yeah.
That's straight. That's straight.
Domino's Pizza.
Straight.
Oh, I think it's gay.
Why?
I don't know. I just think it is. I think Papa John's is straight.
Yes, Papa John's
is straight. Pizza Hut is straight. Domino's, I think, is gay.
I don't know. I guess I'll go by. I don't know. I could be both.
Yeah, pansexual.
Yeah. Literally
in love with pants.
Yeah.
And then the last one, Facebook Marketplace.
Straight.
Absolutely. Straight. Absolutely.
I love how we never explained how we were going to decide either thing.
We don't have to.
No,
I think that's the great.
No, but like
thing.
we didn't explain why is it gay? Why is it straight?
Right. You don't have to. It makes sense. I think. I mean, some of them might come up, but yeah. So I thought that would be fun. Yeah. So we'll have to do more of that. Is it gay or is it straight?
Oh, I'll have to. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We can start doing that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I've never heard that on a podcast.
Maybe I can. Let me just real quick. Let's see if I can find it. I'm pretty sure is it gay or straight? Oh, well, I just accidentally clicked. It said, is space gay or straight? I think it's straight.
I think it's straight too. There's like no, it's just, don't just Google gay or straight. Don't do that. I've never, I've seen this kind of a game, but I've not heard of it on a podcast.
Maybe someone out there knows what it's from. I don't remember who told me about it. Again, I
love it.
Notoriously have a very bad memory, so I can tell you probably every Pokemon that ever exists, but I certainly can't tell you this conversation.
Right.
But I remember it would be random things like this, and they would say like you have to argue why is it is it gay or is it straight?
We agreed on almost everyone.
Well. Absolutely. We're the same person, so it'll be curious to find. It is just like a gut reaction of like, oh, I know.
Yeah, like I don't know how to explain how we just
I think
play
it's
that.
similar in like is it like male or female, right? Like
yeah, like is it masculine or feminine?
Right.
I guess, but that's such a bad
that's a language thing.
Yeah, but that's such a bad way to describe it.
But you don't have an like I can't tell you why dank memes are straight. Like it's because they are.
I can't tell you. I can tell you why. Yeah.
Ozempic is straight because only a freaking only straight people are doing that. I don't think any gay people.
That's why I paused. I was like,
gay people have eating disorders. We don't do Ozempic. What are you talking about?
I was literally thinking, I'm like, I've never heard of a gay person being on Ozempic. That's what I was thinking when I paused. I just thought about like Kris Jenner and like Kelly Clarkson.
If you're gay and on Ozempic, please write in.
We want to know.
Please break down the barriers.
I literally, because I was thinking, I'm like, all the celebrities. I'm like, I don't think any of them are gay. I was like, it's Kris Jenner, it's Kelly Clarkson.
Right.
I mean, there's all these people on Ozempic now.
I know. Which God bless. We're not judging.
I'm not mad about it.
Do what you got to do.
They're saying it's actually pretty efficacious. I mean, the only thing that they say that I'm not sure about is how long you have to be on it. Because once you go off of it, you could gain the weight back.
Absolutely.
But I guess they're still doing their.
But maybe it helps people get
studies.
their life together. It seems like it.
Yeah.
It seems like it. I remember this. I don't think there's a disclosure to this. Maybe I can tell it. Maybe not. Maybe we'll cut it. We'll see. I'll tell the story. We'll see what happens. A guy I was dating several years ago, or whatever we were, he worked for one of these, I won't say which one, a drug company that made this.
Oh.
Maybe people will figure that out. But, and he had said that there was going to be one coming out on the market in a couple years, and he said it's going to be problematic because people are going to use it for what it's not intended for.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be a problem because it's a diabetes
medication.
Yeah,
it's a diabetes medication. Yeah.
But people were trying to go on it who don't have diabetes because one of the side effects, quote unquote, because it's a side effect is an unintended effect.
Yeah, yeah.
Was weight loss.
Well, yeah, it's like so they use it for
I think it's now that they're researching it for weight loss. Now insurance companies are starting to improve it. And stuff, so just in case you wanted to know.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Interesting.
So Ozempic is straight. Domino's Pizza is gay.
Yep.
What are you gonna do?
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Groundbreaking information.
Right.
Well, on that note,
yes, we
hope that you're doing okay.
Yes.
We hope that you're taking care of yourself.
Yes.
And we hope that you're staying kind
and petty.